The topic today we are going to discuss is on nutrient deficiency symptoms in different crops and their rectification. We all know the plant for their growth it requires different types of nutrients like major nutrients nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and secondary nutrients like calcium, magnesium, sulfur, and micronutrients like zinc, copper, iron, manganese, boron, and molybdenum, etc. So among all these nutrients, just I now I told nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium are called the major nutrients as these are required in large quantities by the plants. Then comes to secondary nutrients. These are required comparatively just less quantities than the major nutrients. These are calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. So next comes the micronutrients. These are required very small quantities. Those are zinc, copper, iron, manganese, boron, and molybdenum, etc. So these, even though these are called in very small quantities, though the importance is equally as good as of major and secondary nutrients. So these are the very important. So in this topic, we are going to discuss about the importance of the how to identify the deficiency symptoms, what are the functions of these nutrients, and correction measures which we have to take for the rectification. Among the major nutrients, the first nitrogen, a very important nutrient is nitrogen. It is very much essential for the plant growth. It is required for the synthesis of proteins and nucleic acid, and it is also an integral part of the chlorophyll. You know very well the chlorophyll is the main content for the leaf, which is the ultimate source for the production of many things, edible parts or leaf growth, plant growth, like that. So then deficiency symptoms, how we can identify the nitrogen deficiency. So in general, this is the common symptom in all the crops is the stunted growth and yellow in appearance in the older leaves. So then farmers, what we are doing in the nowadays, farmers are applying excess doses of nitrogen fertilizers, even then more than the recommended doses what are prescribed. So the plants and leaves generally they will exhibit a very dark green color due to the when we apply the excess dose of the nitrogen fertilizers. So due to the excess dose of application of the nitrogen fertilizers, there will be the lodging of the plants, so plants will fall down. So then again the all plants due to their succulence in nature, more succulence in nature, they are susceptible to the different pests and diseases. So the main precaution with respect to the nitrogen fertilizer is we have to use nitrogen fertilizers very cautiously. We should not use excess nitrogen fertilizers which causes the lodging and pest disease attack. So we have to use the nitrogen fertilizers as per the requirement, as per the recommendation based on the soil test value data. So this you can see the rice paddy plant, rice field where the normal green color of the leaves. So this is when there is no deficiency of nitrogen, this it looks like normal green. So then, as I told you, the soil test values are very important. If we do soil test for nitrogen, if it contains 280 kg nitrogen per hectare, less than 280 kg nitrogen per hectare, the soil is called low in nitrogen. If it contains 280 to 560 kg per hectare, the soil type is called medium in nitrogen. If it contains more than 560 kg per hectare, the soil is called high in nitrogen. So these are the soil test values. Based on the soil test values, we have to use the nitrogen fertilizers. So generally, the nitrogen fertilizers recommendations for the different crops are based on the medium type of the soil nitrogen levels. That means 280 to 50, 280 to 560 kg for nitrogen per hectare. On this basis, all the fertilizer recommendations are done. So for example, if soil is having less than 280 kg of nitrogen per hectare, that is low, so we have to use the 25% more, 25% excess of the recommended dose of nitrogen. If soil contains more than 560 kg nitrogen per hectare, we should not use the nitrogen fertilizers. So this is the basis for the soil fertilizer recommendation, nitrogen recommendation based on the soil test nitrogen values. This you can see the plant which is the paddy which is having very dark green color leaves. This is mainly due to the excess application of the nitrogen fertilizers. So one by one crops we'll see the how the nitrogen deficiency looks like. So here this is the maize crop. Maize is the the important crop which is subjected to the nitrogen deficiency more. So here you see the symptoms. So leaves will become dull green color, and this you see the leaf turns to yellow color with spindle shape. The shape of the leaf is also spindle shape. So leaves develop V-shaped yellow portions. You can see here. This is the V-shaped yellow portions. It will develop. So, and symptoms what they happen? No, they start from the older leaves, not in younger leaves. They will start from the older leaves first and then spreads to the younger leaves. So these are the main symptoms of the nitrogen deficiency in maize crop. So this is the how it looks like from the distance, the nitrogen deficiency in the maize field. So then tomato, it is an important vegetable crop here. Here what happens in vegetable crops, the main symptoms in general are the light green color and yellowish color of the leaves. And what happens here, veins, the middle veins of the leaf will turn to violet color here. And stems will become thick and brittle. So these are the main symptoms of the nitrogen deficiency in the tomato. How we'll rectify the nitrogen deficiency if we observe in the plants? So observe nitrogen fertilizers like urea, ammonium sulfate, diammonium phosphate, etc. These are all nitrogen contained fertilizers, and some of them are also, complex fertilizers also there. So depend upon the requirement, depend upon the soil test value, we have to apply the nitrogen fertilizers. Then generally nitrogen application we should not apply at once all the recommended dose. It is better to apply all nitrogen fertilizers in splits. That will be better. It will be better utilized by the plant. So in addition to the state fertilizers, that is urea, ammonium sulfate and diammonium phosphate, the complex fertilizers can also be used adjusting the NPK requirements by the crop selected. So next important element among the major nutrients is phosphorus. So it is it is important. This is the element which is essential for the energy storage and transfer of energy within the plants, and for but better establishment of the plant with increased root growth and for early maturity. So this is the main phosphorus is the main essential element for the plant is for the establishment of the root growth. If phosphorus is enough, it is sufficient, then root growth will be very good. So when root growth is very effective and very good, so then it absorbs the more water through the roots and it absorbs the more nutrients from the soil. So better root growth is required for the plant to grow well, taking the moisture and nutrients from the soil. So for that establishment of the root growth, the phosphorus is the very much essential. So how will recognize the phosphorus deficiency? In general, soils, the when phosphorus, if you do the soil test, analysis, when soil is having phosphorus less than 10 kg per hectare, it is called low in phosphorus. If it contains soil phosphorus 10 to 25 kg per hectare, it is called medium. When it is having more than 25 kg per hectare, it is called high. So again, the phosphorus fertilizers recommendation is based on the all the recommendations given for different crops is based on the medium test value. So the 10 to 25 kg per hectare. If any soil is having soil phosphorus within the range of 10 to 25 kg per hectare, the recommended dose of phosphorus should be applied. If soil phosphorus is less than 10 kg per hectare, we should use 25% more than the recommended dose of the phosphorus fertilizer. So this is the criteria for the phosphorus application. So deficiency symptoms, I already told you, poor root establishment, and because of the poor root establishment, the improper plant growth and the purple green color appearance is the main important symptoms. So this is the phosphorus deficiency symptom in the maize. So it is observed in the small plants when it is young, or plants are young, and leaves will looks like dark green, but purple with gray color edges. You can see here this purple color of the leaf with all edges are with purple color. The deficient plants looks like very small and they will grow very slowly. So how we rectify the phosphorus deficiency? So generally, I already told you apply phosphorus fertilizers as basal only at the time of sowing or planting, depending upon the crop recommendations. So I already told you the recommendation of fertilizer is based on the, I mean, uh, that is medium soil test value. If it is less soil test value, you have to apply 25% more. So all fertilizers, unlike nitrogen fertilizers, we have to apply all phosphorus fertilizers at basal only, because the phosphorus nutrient is required for the better establishment of the root growth. For root growth, initial stages root growth should be good. So then only plant takes moisture and nutrients. For that purpose, all phosphorus fertilizers needed should be applied as a basal at the time of planting only. We should not apply any phosphorus fertilizers as top dressing. If the farmers are in practice of applying some complex fertilizers and DAP at the top dressing, so that is not advisable. It is the waste on expenditure on the phosphorus fertilizers we apply as top dressing. So I told you farmers are applying complex fertilizers top dressing. Do not use phosphorus containing complex fertilizers as top dressing. Next, third element important among the major nutrient is potassium. So the functions of the potassium in the plant is it is a transporter of photosynthesis to the edible plant. So for plant parts from the stem, from the root, from the stem, from the leaf, the photosynthesis will be transferred to the edible part. For example, paddy is edible part grain, maize is edible part also maize cob grain. So like that edible part. So for example, carrot that is other crops just like root crops, leafy vegetables to leaf like that. So depend upon the requirement, it transport of the photosynthesis to the edible part. So then formation and translocation of the sugars. So it is one more function for the potassium is it translocates the sugars from one part to the other part. And the main important function of the potassium is it gives resistance to the plants against pest diseases, lodging, drought and frost. So it also improves the quality of the crops. For example, grain, paddy, grain filling capacity. So we do not get the chaffy grains. Grain filling will be good. So like that is the quality of crops. And other crops it improves the quality. Tobacco leaf quality it improves. And like that it is improves the quality. And the pest and diseases attacks will be less when you apply the recommended dose of the phosphorus. So these are the deficiency symptoms I already told you. In general, the potassium in soil test value in the soils of both Telugu states and most of the states in India, they are high in potassium content. But there are the chances likely to gun because we are taking while taking 2 to 3 crops in a year and taking high yielding crops and using only nitrogen and phosphorus fertilizers without using the potassium fertilizers and organic manures, there is a possibility of the reduction in the soil available potash, likely to be get the potassium deficiency symptoms in future also. So mostly when compared to the black soil, the light soils are deficient in potassium. So when we do the soil test value for phosphorus, when it contains 120 kg of the potash per hectare less than 120 kg, it is called low in soil K. And if it contains soil test potash 120 to 180 kg per hectare, it is called medium in potash. And if it is contain more than 180 kg potash per hectare, it is called high. So again, all potassium fertilizer recommendations are based on the medium level of the soil test value. If soil test value is less than 120 kg per hectare for potash, we have to use the 25% more of the potash fertilizers than the recommended dose. So this is the general criteria. So generally, potash deficiency symptoms occur in older leaves when compared to the younger leaves. So the normal green color it loses, and it will turn to the light brown color and dry. So these are the symptoms start from the leaf edges. So these are the main symptoms irrespective of crops. Most of the crops, the older leaves loses brown color, and the edge of the leaves it will turn to the light brown colors, and it will look like the drying of the leaves. This is the potassium deficiency in rice. You see these deficiency symptoms are seen in the older leaves, and leaves turn to yellow color first and then brown color looks like drying of the leaves. So drying starts from the top of the top portion and it extends to the bottom leaf and leaving the veins. Veins will be green and all other portion it will start turning into the yellow and later brown from edge to the bottom. These are the main symptoms. So these are the looks like this is a paddy panicle, brownish color. It looks like the drying of the leaves. This is the potassium deficiency. This is the groundnut. So in addition to those common symptoms here, groundnut it turns to yellow. It's not only it turns to the yellow and brown color, and the spreading it will turn spreading from the apex leaves and It main other symptom in this is the brown spots. This is the yellowish. After yellowish, this both sides of the between the edge of the leaf we will find the brown spots. So this is the additional symptom for the potassium deficiency in the groundnut. So this is the citrus. So citrus, the leaves will become spindle shape of the leaves and turns into yellow, finally to brown. So finally the brown color. This is the main symptom of the potassium. Here the fruits, so what will happen? Fruits will drop and fruits will look small size. Should be cotton again. So leaf margins turn brownish, remains the greens will be remain green. So this is the common symptom for the potassium in all the crops. Again, this is also tomato. The tomato, what happens? The additional symptoms for tomato is, in addition to losing the dark in color at early stage, it will looks like bushy appearance. The leaves will become dark green. Leaves will become folded and curved. So that is the main symptom in the tomato, and the tomato fruits will be falling down. So this is the maize again. Maize also again symptom starts from the older leaves first, and later on it spreads to the younger and newer leaves will be younger leaves will be remain green. So leaves develop yellow color all along the edges. All along the edges it will develop the yellow color. So this is again mango. Mango drying of the leaves. Drying starts at the top of the leaf and it proceeds towards the bottom. So how to rectify the potassium deficiency? So we have to use the all potash containing straight fertilizers like muriate of potash and potassium sulfate and other potash containing complex fertilizers depending upon the crop recommendations, crop requirements and based on the soil test values for the potash. So there are some different crops. So some of the crops are chloride sensitive crops like tobacco and other quality based crops where we have to use the potassium sulfate. For example, tobacco we will use the leaf, tobacco leaf. So if we use the muriate of potash is nothing but the potassium chloride. So it is having chloride content. So chloride will be the it will give the scorching effect on the tobacco. It damages the leaf quality. So that for the tobacco type of quality type of crops, we have to use the potassium sulfate fertilizers as the source of potassium. So potassium fertilizer, unlike the nitrogen fertilizer, we have to unlike the phosphorus fertilizers, like nitrogen fertilizer, we have to apply potash fertilizer in the 2 to 3 splits depend upon the crop. For example, paddy crop, we have to apply it 2 to 3 splits. Some portion as the basal and some other portion during the grain filling time. So next coming to the second category, that is secondary nutrients. Among the secondary nutrients, the number one is the calcium. So it is it is the responsible element for the structure and permeability of the cell membrane and for cell elongation and division. Because for the growth of the plant, the cells elongation is the main source, cell division and cell elongation. So for the cell division and for cell elongation, the calcium is the most important nutrient required. So when this deficiency is there, it prevents the emergence of the leaves. Leaves will not be emerged properly when it is deficiency in calcium. And leaves will be unfolding, so it will not open. Leaves will not open. Leaves will not open. So this is the main symptom for the calcium. And the tips of foods are colorless. Generally, in fruits and vegetables, it causes the disorders in the storage tissues inside the fruits. So the damage can be seen due to the calcium deficiency. So the calcium deficiency is more common in some problematic soils like saline and alkaline soils where the pH is more than 8. So when pH is more, the calcium deficiency in soils is there is a more possibility. So in acid soils also where pH is very less than 6 also we can get the deficiency of the calcium. So when if you do the soil test value for calcium, when exchangeable calcium in the soil is less than 1.5 centimoles per 100 grams of soil, we called this soil is deficient in calcium. So how to rectify the calcium deficiency? In general, we will rectify the calcium deficiency through the application of the gypsum. So gypsum is nothing but the calcium sulfate. It is the main source of the calcium. So the gypsum will contain about 23.3% of the calcium depend upon the sources. So when we use the gypsum fertilizer, we can rectify the calcium deficiency. General recommendation is 200 kg gypsum per acre. That is 500 kg of gypsum per hectare. The application of the single superphosphate is the best for the supply of the phosphorus, because for the supply of the phosphorus fertilizers to different crops, we are using different sources. For example, we are using diammonium phosphate, we are using complex fertilizers, like that so many other phosphorus sources we are using. So among all the phosphorus sources, the best fertilizer, the phosphorus is single superphosphate, is the best fertilizer. Why? Because the single superphosphate is also contain the calcium, that is calcium sulfate it contains, and it also contains not only phosphorus, in addition to phosphorus, it contains the calcium and also contains the sulfur. So these are the important for the single superphosphate is the very important sorry, phosphorus source, because it contains 23% about calcium, in addition to the regular 16%. Any single superphosphate is the source of the phosphorus. It contains 16% phosphorus, PO5 phosphorus, and in addition to that, it contains calcium, that is 18 to 21%, and also it contains sulfur 11 to 12%. This is the best source for the three nutrients. In addition to this calcium, phosphorus, and sulfur, it also contains a small quantities of the micronutrients like zinc, copper, iron, and manganese. So this is the best source of the phosphorus fertilizers among all the phosphorus fertilizer sources. Next, second nutrient among the major nutrients is the magnesium. So with that, for chlorophyll content, everybody will know. For chlorophyll, there is important is the magnesium, nitrogen, magnesium, and iron. So the magnesium is very important. It is a constant of the chlorophyll, and it involved in the several physiological and the biochemical functions of the leaf. So how we will identify the magnesium deficiency in soils? We do when we do the soil for the test for magnesium testing. When we found the magnesium is less than 1 centimoles per 100 grams of soil, it is the soil is called deficiency in magnesium. So when generally what happens when the calcium content in the soil is more, it is likely to be soil deficient in the magnesium. So main symptoms due to the magnesium in the crops are the symptoms appear mainly in the older and middle leaves, not on younger leaves. It mainly on older and middle leaves. It turns to the reddish brown in color. So the most common deficiency of the magnesium, it is observed commonly in cotton growing areas. This is a very important secondary nutrient deficiency in the cotton crop. How we rectify? Generally, when several results, several experiments were carried out, so the soil application of magnesium sulfate is not taking care well. So the only better way is the application of the magnesium sulfate through foliar application. So the 0.25% magnesium sulfate foliar spray. So that is 2.5 grams of the magnesium sulfate dissolved in 1 liter of water. So like that, we have to prepare this spray solution, and 2 to 3 times at weekly intervals, we have to spray the crops. Then we rectify the magnesium deficiency in the crop. So next important secondary nutrient is sulfur. This is very very important nutrient among the secondary nutrients when compared to the calcium and magnesium. So this is the topmost nutrient among the major, secondary nutrients. So the function of the sulfur is it is useful for the synthesis of the amino acids in the and protein, and it also helpful in the synthesis of the chlorophyll, and the characteristic it is useful for the characteristic taste and smell of the plants like mustard and onion families. And onion onion we require odor, mustard we require oil content. So like that, it improves the quality and taste and smell also. It improves the oil content in the seeds. Generally, it is very much useful to improve the oil content in the oil seed crops like groundnut, mustard, sesame. So all these oil seed crops, it requires sulfur to improve this oil content in the edible pods. Where will found the sulfur deficiency? Generally, in light soils, we'll find the sulfur deficiency, not in the heavy soils like calcareous soils or in black soils. So in light soils only we'll get more sulfur deficiency. And when there is a heavy rainfall, because if wherever rainfall is more, just like in Telugu states, Srikakulam and Vijayanagaram districts, so due to the high rainfall, it will leach down. So the sulfur deficiency is more common. So when we do the soil test for the sulfur, if it contains less than 10 mg for 1 kg of soil, this is called 10 ppm. It is called, if it is less than 10 ppm, the soil is called deficient in the sulfur. 10 ppm means 10 milligrams of sulfur for 1 kg of the soil. So how will identify the sulfur deficiency symptoms in the crops? So the main important symptom is the younger leaves will become the small and it turns to the yellow green. And whereas the older leaves remain normal green. So older leaves same normal green it looks like, only younger leaves will be affected turning into small size and yellowish green. So it resembles to nitrogen deficiency, but some symptoms are seen in younger leaves. So the nitrogen deficiency symptoms and sulfur deficiency symptoms are same. Leaves will become small and turning into the yellowish green and yellowish. These are the common symptoms. But what is the difference is nitrogen deficiency will get in the older leaves, whereas sulfur deficiency will get in the younger leaves. So this is the only difference to demarcate the sulfur deficiency and nitrogen deficiency in the crops. So like nitrogen with sulfur also the stunted growth. In groundnut, the main important symptom we can recognize it is a sulfur deficiency is a leaf turn into the V shape. So how will rectify the sulfur deficiency in the crops? We will apply 8 kg of the sulfur to the 65 kg of the gypsum per acre. So because the gypsum contains about 18 to 21% depend upon the sources. So to apply 65 kg of the gypsum per acre, we need, to apply the 80 kg of the sulfur for crops, we need 65 kg of the gypsum per acre. So for oil seed crops, it is general recommendation. For oil seed crops, we need more sulfur to improve the oil content in the seeds. So that's why we require double the dose of the sulfur recommendation. That is 16 kg of sulfur we require for the oil seed crops that we can supply through the application of the 130 kg of the gypsum per acre. So gypsum can be applied as basal and as well as the flowering also. For example, for groundnut, the application of the gypsum it is recommended during the flowering of the groundnut. So we can, if we apply the phosphorus to the single superphosphate, just now I told I was explaining about the phosphorus fertilizers, it is single superphosphate contains not only the phosphorus, it also contains calcium and sulfur. It contains sulfur about 11 to 12%. So better to use single superphosphate as a source of phosphorus so that it can also supply sulfur to the crops and we can avoid the sulfur deficiency in future in the coming up crops. So this is the deficiency symptoms. Just leaves, younger leaves are becoming yellowish green, and leaflets it will become V-shaped leaflets. Plant growth is in general been stunted. When we these symptoms, then what farmers will think nitrogen deficiency. They will apply nitrogen fertilizers immediately after seeing these fertilizers. But in spite of nitrogen application, the symptoms will remain. So that definitely it is due to the sulfur deficiency. When you use the sulfur application, then only it can be rectified. So we have to demarcate whether it is we are seeing in the younger leaves or we are seeing in the older leaves. If it is these symptoms are seen on younger leaves, then you must know these deficient symptoms are due to the sulfur. So this is the sulfur applied groundnut. When we apply the sulfur to the groundnut crop, it looks like dark green leaves. We can clearly see here. So then coming to the third category of the nutrient, micronutrients. So these are required very small quantities when compared to the the major nutrients and secondary nutrients. So these requirement are very at ppm level. Even though they are required very in small quantities, the importance of these micronutrients is as well as of very much importance as well as of the major nutrients equally important. If the any micronutrient is deficient, the yields will be drastically decreased on par with the major nutrient deficiencies. So among the micronutrient deficiencies, the most important element is the zinc. So the functions when if we see the zinc element, it is involved in the enzymatic activities and it is also useful for the synthesis of compounds needed for the production of the growth hormones. So these are the important two functions of the zinc, that is enzymatic activities and growth of the hormones. So then when we do this, when soil testing for the zinc, when it is called as deficient, when soil available zinc, that is DTP extractable zinc, if it is less than 0.65 mg per kg, that is 0.65 ppm, that is called. When it is less than 0.65 ppm of the soil in red soils, and zero point 0.7 mg per kg, zero point 0.7 ppm in the black soils. So if black soils, if it is less than 0.7, it is called deficiency. If it is in the less than 0.65 in red soils, it is called deficiency. So the zinc deficiency is most commonly observed in the problem soils, that is saline soils and alkaline soils. And when the drainage conditions also poor, it is likely to get the zinc deficiency in the soil. And under low temperatures in the winter, we'll get the zinc deficiency. If the temperatures are very low, generally we can observe in winter seasons. This is the most common zinc deficiency we can observe in the paddy crop. When there is a winter, when night temperatures will follow down. And again, if we grow the crops continuously, same crops for the many seasons, there is a possibility of getting the zinc deficiency in the crops. So the data which is available, the soil data of the our two states, that is AP, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana state. So 50% of the soil in the United States of Andhra Pradesh and 59% of the soil in Telangana state, those are deficient in zinc. And how we'll identify the deficiency? Main important zinc deficiency is in the paddy and zinc. So paddy, how will identify? So these are the most of the paddy crop. Many fields will get this zinc deficiency is most common in the paddy. So the first initial deficiency symptom we can recognize is the base of the midrib. That midrib, what happened, at the base level, it loses the green color and turns to the yellow. First it turns to yellow, and lateral it looks like the white portion, white base. That is the starting of the zinc deficiency. Then afterwards, what happened? The rusty spots will occur on both sides of the midrib at the top portion of the leaf. So if you see the leaf at top portion of the leaf, so besides two sides of the between, so rusty spots will be there. We can observe. So that is zinc deficiency. And leaves also, normal leaves will become into spindle shape, and it will become brittle. If you break down, it gives a sound. So that is brittle sound. This is the main symptom of the zinc in the paddy. So these leaves will also become small, and interminal chlorosis and shortening of the intermediate nodes and bushy appearance are the general symptoms. So these symptoms, leaves becoming small, interminal chlorosis and shortening of the intermediates, and looks like bushy appearance. These are the common symptoms in the oilseed crops like groundnut, and vegetable crops like tomato and fruit crops. So these are the most common symptoms. So this is the paddy. Just now I told you. So these are the symptoms observed after the 15 to 20 days after the transplanting. So the base of the midrib will be yellow and white at the time of the beginning of the zinc deficiency, and later on the midrib loses the green color and rusty spots on both sides of the midrib, and later on this all rusty spots will become, combined, coalesce, and it will become the dark brown color, and leaves will become, you see the leaf is spindle shaped. Spindle shape. So leaves become spindle shape. So this symptom in the rice generally is called as a Kaira disease of the rice. So this is the photo which is showing this crop. It is the zinc applied paddy. This is zinc not applied paddy. Zinc not applied paddy. It is showing the just like burning appearance from the distance, and it is looking green where the zinc is applied. Groundnut, just I told you, the small leaves will become very small, and the internodes distance will be very small. So when internode distance is small, the leaves will become clustered, rosette appearance it will show, and intervenal chlorosis are the main symptoms. And this is the citrus. Again, leaves will become yellowish and green islands. This is the peculiar symptom in the seeds. It looks like the islands, green islands on the leaf, and bushy appearance, And later on, what happened? The citrus fruits will be very small. We'll get the very small fruits due to the zinc deficiency. This is again castor losing the green color, yellowing, and in younger leaves it is common symptom. And tomato also, leaves will become smaller, and internodes will become shortened internodes, and chlorosis, interminal chlorosis, yellowing, and other symptom peculiar in tomato is curling of the leaves downward. The leaves will be curling downwards, not upwards. Curling downwards is the main symptom for the zinc deficiency in the tomato. And maize also very important indicator plant for the zinc. Here all leaves will become yellow in color, yellow tissue and with reddish veins between midrib and edges of the leaf occurring mainly in the lower half portion. Later on what happened, it forms the white patch. You can see the here white patch. White patch, it is popularly known as the white bud in the maize. We will call it as a white bud for the zinc deficiency in the maize. So the white patch, what happened, it extends parallel to the midrib in the form of the stripes. It looks like stripes extending to the midrib. This is the mango, little leaves and yellowing and shortening of the internodes and bushy appearance. You see the bushy appearance. Looks like all leaves are coming from one place. And leaves will be curling down. Leaves will be curling down. So these are the symptoms in mango. This is another symptom of mango. Same. Then banana also leaves will become yellow and later on purple coloration lower surface. Main rectification is the here banana 10 kg zinc sulfate per plant we have to apply and 0.2% zinc sulfate spray 2 to 3 times at 10 days intervals will rectify the zinc deficiency in the banana. Regarding the rectification of the zinc deficiency, there are different methods. One is soil application, another is foliar application. So soil application, we have to apply the all fertilizers through the soil. Foliar is through the foliar spray. So there are the different fertilizers which are the source of the zinc soil as well as the foliars. One of the most important is the zinc sulfate and other zinc chelates are there also there. The zinc chelates are mainly useful for the alkaline and saline soils and for spraying purpose, and zinc oxide is also important zinc source of fertilizer. So if you see the zinc fertilizers, different zinc fertilizers, zinc oxide contains 60 to 80% zinc. Zinc EDTA contains 12% zinc. Zinc monohydrate zinc sulfate contains 33%. Heptahydrate zinc sulfate will contain 21%. Generally, the farmers will be using the heptahydrate zinc sulfate, which is most commonly available in the shop. This contains 21% zinc sulfate. So zinc it also improves the not only improves the yield, but also it improves some of the quality parameters. The improvement in the sucrose recovery, in juice quality. If we use the zinc in the sugarcane, for example, sugarcane it increases the sucrose quality, it increases the juice quality, it increases the sugar content in the juice, and also it increases the ascorbic acid contents like that in some fruit crops. How to rectify the zinc sulfate? General recommendation for the zinc sulfate rectification is the using of 20 kg zinc sulfate per acre. So that is 50 kg zinc sulfate per hectare for the rice. Whereas for the other irrigated crops, so all other irrigated crops and also for paddy, it is recommended 20 kg zinc sulfate per acre as a basal. But when the soils are problematic soils, for example, saline soils, it is having a high amount of salts. When it is alkaline soils, when it is having a high amount of exchangeable sodium, so then the problem type soils are there. Then we have to apply the double the dose of the zinc sulfate. So due to instead of 20, we have to apply the 40 kg zinc sulfate per acre in saline and alkaline soils. So then in rain-fed and ID crops, irrigated dry crops, where the irrigation is not sufficiently available, there we apply, there the general recommendation is 10 to 12 kg zinc sulfate per acre. And if you go to tree crops, for example, mango, guava, citrus like that, it is recommended 100 to 200 grams of the zinc sulfate for tree-based recommendation. In the basins, we will apply away from the trunks and mix the soil and cover the soil. All this is the recommendation for fruit crops. When the zinc deficiency is observed on the crop, then what we have to do? We have to take up the foliar application. That is 0.25% zinc sulfate foliar spray is recommended. How we will prepare 0.2%? 2 grams of zinc sulfate is mixed with the 1 liter of water. It gives the 0.2%. So we have to spray the zinc sulfate 2 to 3 times at weekly intervals for the crop. For example, zinc per acre we require 400 liters of the solution. For that purpose, so we have to prepare the 0.2% zinc sulfate concentration. So next important element among the micronutrients is the iron. Nowadays, after zinc, the iron is also coming deficient. When you see the function of the iron, it is essential for the production of the enzymes involved in the chlorophyll synthesis. As I told you, nitrogen is important for chlorophyll, sulfur is important for chlorophyll, magnesium is important for chlorophyll. Like that, iron is also important for chlorophyll synthesis. So it is also part of an enzyme nitrogenase, which is essential for the nitrogen fixation. The plants for leguminous crops, the nitrogen fixation for nodules, so the nitrogenase enzyme is there. So for it is the iron is the part of the nitrogenase enzyme. So where we'll get these deficiency of the iron. Generally, we'll get when the area, the soils, when will the area bring under cultivation in newly high-cut areas, when the irrigation newly is provided, and new high-cuts are there. So we bring the soils under new high-cut areas. In the black soils, we'll get due to the leveling of the soils, we'll get the iron deficiency. And it is also common in calcareous black soils, when the calcium carbonate is more than 15%, black soils, it is the iron deficiency is more common. And also we'll get iron deficiency in generally farmers are using borewell water also, many farmers. So borewell water, if it contains high amounts of the carbonates and bicarbonates, it likely is to cause the iron deficiency in the crops. So there are the different, some of the crops which are iron sensitive. If you don't, if these are iron deficiency, it will exhibit the iron deficiency, and crop yields will be reduced. Citrus, groundnut, sugarcane, rain-fed rice, and sorghum. These are the important crops which require more iron. So major tools, how will diagnose? I already told you the soil available iron for with the soil test value, and if not total iron but active iron in plants. For example, groundnut leaf analysis. What happened? The critical level of iron is there. If it is less than the critical level, we may say that iron is deficient, but not that it is indicator. The active iron in the plants we have to analyze it. That is the indication to give the iron deficiency, to exhibit the iron deficiency symptoms in the crops. So the portion between the veins in younger leaves loses the green color and turn to the yellow. This is the main important of the iron deficiency. Iron means that's all. Young leaves, chlorosis, yellow color. This is the main symptoms. And ultimately, finally, the leaves turn to the white. So this is the major symptom of the iron deficiency. If you see the different crops, I will show the paddy, you will see leaf lamina between the veins become yellow, and under severe deficiency conditions, yellow portions turn to the brick red and dries, and drying start from the edges and proceeds towards the inner sides. This is the nursery. Nursery, the iron deficiency is the most commonly observed. The leaves will become yellow, and later on it will turn to the white. If you see the white leaves and yellow leaves observed in the nursery, it is mainly due to the iron deficiency, we can call. We have to apply the iron spray. So in mango also, you see the leaves will become yellow, and later on turn to the white portions. This is also again tomato. Leaves will lose the green color, becomes pale yellow, and later on turns to yellow. And light yellow spots will be seen all along the margin, starting from the base. So this is the citrus. You see the white leaves. White leaves means that is no doubt it is only due to the iron deficiency. And here citrus fruits will be also dropping down, will be there. This is banana again, white, yellowish and white leaves. Sugarcane also. Sugarcane crops generally will observe iron deficiency in retin crops, and not much in main crop. It is observed in retin crops. All leaves will become the complete yellow color, just like white paper-like structure. So this is mainly due to the iron deficiency. So you see the white colors, iron deficiency in the sugarcane leaf. So how will rectify the different soil application as well as foliar application? Here sources of fertilizer sources are iron sulfate and iron chelate. So here just like magnesium sulfate, here ferrous sulfate application, soil application, it will not be good. So we have conducted so many research experiments. So the soil foliar application is the better than the soil application with respect to the iron deficiency. So the 0.5% foliar spray is recommended. So that is through Annabedi. that is 5 grams ferrosulfate or anabase dissolved in 1 liter of water, it gives 0.5%. So 0.5% spray of the ferrosulfate or anabase 2 to 3 times at weekly intervals, it rectifies the iron deficiency on the crops. So foliar, as I told you, foliar spray is better than the soil application of the 20 kg ferrosulfate per acre. So chelated iron is the better in calcareous and alkaline soils. Alkaline and calcareous soils, what happen? The normal ferrous sulfate, that is under the spray, may not be effective. So we have to take up the foliar spray through the chelated iron. So that will be better. The next third micronutrient is the copper. Generally, it is not much deficiency it is observed. The function is it is required for the enzymatic reactions in the plant. So deficiency when we do the soil analysis, if copper is less than zero point 0.2 ppm, that is 0.2 mg per kg in red soils. If it is less than 0.3 ppm, that is 0.3 mg per kg in black soils, we call that soil as a deficiency in copper. So it is mainly seen among the crops growing in the peat and mud soils. Deficiency symptoms mainly we will see in corn plant in younger leaves. The leaves will become yellow and stunted, and as the deficiency symptoms become more severe, the younger leaves become pale and older leaves will be dying. In vegetable crops, like it looks like it leaves the lack of turgor, and wheat, stem melanosis diseases is the most common symptoms of the copper. So this is the citrus deficiency in copper deficiency in citrus, dropping of the younger leaves and a drying of the stem on the top, and brick color and a dried spots of the leaf in the fruit. So this is the dried spots, brick color within the fruit. Reduction on the fruit size also reduction. Gummy substance on the branches. How will rectify? Generally, we will use copper fungicides for the rectification of the fungal diseases. It is recommended. When we apply the copper fungicides for the rectification of fungal diseases, it will also take care of the copper deficiency in the plants. Fourth micronutrient element is the manganese. It is very much essential for the photosynthesis in the plants. So the deficiency symptoms mainly, if we do the soil testing for the manganese, if soil is less than 2 ppm manganese in red soils, that is 2 mg per kg of soils. If it is less than manganese, if it is less than 3 ppm in black soils, that is 3 mg for the kg of the soils, it is called soil is deficient in the manganese. So it is observed in saline and calcareous soils. Saline means it is high salt content soils. Calcareous soils means containing high amounts of the calcium carbonate. So when magnesium is lost through the drainage, they are likely to get the manganese is lost through the drainage, it is likely to get the manganese deficiency in the soil. The main intervenal deficiency symptoms are the intervenal chlorosis and the gray speck of the oats, speckled yellow of the sugar beets. These are the most symptoms when there is severe deficiencies of the nutrient is there. How will rectify? Generally, when we apply the 10 kg of the manganese sulfate for hectare, is the general recommendation. But oilseed crops, just like groundnut, will recommend double the dose. That is 10 kg of the manganese sulfate per hectare. Is as a basal, it is recommended to take care of the manganese deficiency in coming up crop. So when it is deficiency is observed on the crop, we have to take up the foliar spray, that is 0.5% foliar spray. That means 5 grams of the manganese sulfate for 1 liter of water. It gives the 0.5%. We have to spray twice with twice with weekly intervals. We have to take up foliar spray. So these are the manganese deficiency symptoms. Symptoms resembles to zinc deficiency, but there will not be reduction in the leaf size. Same symptoms, but whereas zinc, the reduction in the leaf size, whereas in manganese, there is no reduction in the leaf size. And another symptom, additional symptom is curling of the leaves, downward curling of the leaves will be there due to the manganese deficiency in citrus. This is the citrus just now I told you, and pale yellow spots, and later on these spots turn to the gray or white color. This is in tomato. And next important, very very important element we can call as a after zinc, it is and iron. It is very important. Iron, boron. Nowadays now boron deficiency is coming up. Micronutrient deficiency in different crops. So the importance of boron, if we see, it requires for the number of growth processes like cell elongation, cell development in meristematic tissue. That is grown up part, it is the edge of the plant where there is a meristematic tissue development is there. So their cell development is more. There the boron requirement is more for that purpose. And another important function of the boron is the translocation of the sugars, starches, nitrogen, and phosphorus, and nodal formation in the legumes, and regulation of the carbohydrate metabolism. So this is a very important, items required. That is sugars, translocation, mainly translocation of all these product. Sugars, starches, and elements like nitrogen, phosphorus. The boron is very much required. Yeah, and not only for this nodal formation, also boron is required in legumes. So when we'll call soil is deficient in sulfur. Boron. If we analyze the soil for boron, if it contains less than 0.52 ppm, that is 0.52 mg per kg of the soil, it is called soil is deficient in the boron. So the boron deficiency is most common in the light soils, and wherever the rainfall is more in the regions of that type of soils, and where the soils are low in the organic matter, so they are likely to be deficient in the boron. So in Telugu states, generally in Andhra Pradesh, erstwhile combined Andhra Pradesh, the soils were analyzed. Soil survey it indicated that west and east Godavari districts of the and Krishna districts of the combined Andhra Pradesh, where the coconut and oil palm crops are the predominant crops on large scale, there are the most probable deficient of the boron in those crops. So the main deficiency symptoms due to the boron is because I told you it is required in the growth of the meristematic tissue, that is the edge of the plant. So the boron deficiency is there, the terminal bud will be dying, and even the terminal bud dies, the later on the side branches, lateral branches then arise, which have the shorter internodes and enlarged nodes, so leading to the bushy appearance at the edge of the plant, at the top of the plant. So it looks like the bushy appearance. This is the common symptom for the boron. And leaves also will become brittle, and fruits will be hollow. Inside the fruits, there will be hollow like structure will be there. And leaves and stems will become brittle and breaks when we'll bend the leaf, it will break. So giving watery choked appearance are the main symptoms of the boron. This is a peculiar symptom in the coconut. The leaves join together, giving the broom-like appearance, and fruits may have the cracks. So these are the symptoms in the coconut. So crop by crop we see. So this is the coconut. The terminal bud will be dying, and many lateral branches will be arising, shorter internodes. So you see, it looks like bushy appearance. Looks like bushy appearance. So these are the leaves will become brittle and breaks. Leaf lamina is broken. You see, this is another symptom. And broom-like structure. Just now I told you, all leaflets will be attached together, giving just like broom-like structure. It is the main important symptom. When we visited the coconut fields in the Godavari districts, we have taken this photograph of the leaf. So again, another symptom is the curling of the inflorescence in the coconut. This is also another important symptom of boron. And within the fruit, on the fruit, if you see the coconut fruit, on the fruit, the cracks will be there. On the fruits, the cracks will be there, and inside the fruit, the hollowness will be there. It is the main symptoms of the boron. If you see the citrus also, veins of the young leaves will become yellow, and leaf loses the green color. Veins of the older leaves are brittle and breaks, and dropping of the fruits. And citrus is inside this citrus fruit. Upon the fruit, it cracks. Inside the fruit, water soaked and rotten substance will be there inside the fruit. So this is also mango. Again, inside the fruit, hollowness, but nothing will be there. No flesh, hollowness in the fruit, and on the fruit cracking. It is also mango, brown appearance inside the fruit pulp, brown appearance. And cotton, the most important, most common micronutrient deficiency in cotton are, in addition to zinc, the most common micronutrient is boron deficiency observed in cotton growing areas. How will identify the branches? The growing of the branches stops, leading to the development of the axillary buds, making to appear as a small bush at the top. It looks like small bush at the top. And all parts of the plant will become brittle and thick. Small stems will become, leaves will become, and they'll brittle, leaves will brittle, stem will brittle, and water soaky appearance on the stem like that. Middle leaves also will turn inward coupling, followed by the wilting. So that is main symptom in the cotton. And sunflower also, just like bushy appearance and chlorotic patches in young leaves, and this meristematic portion, the leaf growth stops, and cotyledon will become massive, and shoot apex become globose, and it will be deformation. You see the leaf deformation. This is the main. It is because of the boron deficiency in the sunflower. So how it affects the quality? It affects the oil yield also, and it also meaning it also affects the protein. If it is boron is in sufficient quantities, the oil yield will be good and protein content will be good. There are different methods. Soil application is there as well as foliar application is there. So there are also two sources of the boron application. One is borax is there. It contains 11% boron, and another source is boric acid. It contains 17% boron. So how will rectify? Generally, the soil application for the general recommendation of the crops is 4 kg borax per acre. So general recommendation, if we go for the coconut and oil palm where the common boron deficiency is observed on the crop, so there we have to apply the 25 to 50 grams of the borax based on the tree size. If the tree is younger, we should apply 25 kg. If it is become older, we have to go up to the 50 kg borax per tree. Patients away from the trunk, we have to apply, mix this in the soil and cover with the soil. So this is the general recommendation of the boron for the this coconut and oil palm crops. When the deficiency is observed on the crop, we have to go for the foliar spray of the 0.15%. That is 1.5 gram borax per liter of the water. It gives the 0.15% concentration. So we have to spray this borax spray twice at fortnightly intervals for the coconut and oil palm. Boron should also have applied when boron deficiency is compound, because boron is it is a very toxic element. When boron is deficient, when in soil where when the boron deficient symptoms are observed on the crop, then only we have to take up the boron application. Otherwise, don't take up boron application without the suggestion of the any plant specialist and any agriculture officer. It is the toxic elements. We must be careful while apply the borax application or boron application. So then another important micronutrient is the molybdenum. It is the essential component in some of the useful enzymes present in the chloroplast in the leaves. It is also component of the nitrogenase enzyme, which is involved in the nitrogen fixation, mainly in leguminous crops. For the nitrogen fixation, nitrogenase enzyme is there. So it is also molybdenum is also it is very much required for the nitrogenase enzyme. So it is essential for the iron absorption and translocation of the iron in the plants. So the deficiency in the soils, mostly in acid soils where pH is very less, the molybdenum deficiency is likely to occur in the soils where in Srikakulam, Vijayanagaram and Visakhapatnam districts of the combined Andhra Pradesh. Now it is in Andhra Pradesh and in some pockets of the Jahirabad district in Telangana. So there the acid soils are there with low pH. In that low pH acid soils, the molybdenum deficiency is commonly observed in the soils. So the deficiency is observed in these three districts, Srikakulam, Vijayanagaram and Visakhapatnam districts, to the extent of the 50% in the acid soils deficient in the molybdenum. So if soil available molybdenum is less than 0.2 ppm, that is zero point 0.2 mg per kg of the soil is called less in soil available molybdenum. So the symptoms, it looks like just like nitrogen deficiency, yellowing of the leaves. But additionally, we have rotten spots on the leaves. So this is the main important difference of the molybdenum. And the leaves will be turning into the cup shaped. This is also another important function, symptom of the molybdenum. And if we take up the cabbage, the hollowness inside the cabbage, there is no flesh. Hollowness will be observed in cabbage. And another important symptom on the cauliflower. This is most important. Most commonly occur deficiency molybdenum in the cauliflower crop. What happens is when we see the leaf, the widthwise of the leaf growth, both sides of the middle vein stops. Widthwise growth stops. Lengthwise width growth will be more. So it is look like the tail, whip tail. So this is called whip tail in the cauliflower. So how will rectify the molybdenum deficiency in the crops? Generally, the soil application will go for apply 40 grams of the ammonium molybdate or sodium molybdate mixed with the sand for acre. Because why we are mixing with sand? 40 grams, it is very, very, very low quantity. We apply directly 40 grams, it may not be uniform application on the soil. So for uniform application on the soil, we should mix up this 40 grams with the sand, and we have to, broadcast the soil mixed with ammonium chloride in the deficient soil. So these are the common different micronutrient deficiencies observed in some of the important crops. So if you for crop wise, we'll see for the rice, there are most common symptoms. We'll observe zinc and iron. For maize also zinc and iron. Sorghum also zinc and iron. Sugarcane, mainly in return crops, we'll observe iron deficiency. For mango also zinc deficiency. Citrus also, all micronutrient deficiency will be observing in citrus. And grapes, zinc and boron are the common. And oilseed crops, sunflower, groundnut will see the zinc, iron and boron. Sunflower, zinc and boron are most common micronutrient deficiencies. Castor, zinc deficiency is most common. Cotton, zinc and boron deficiency are most commonly observed. Vegetable crops, brinjal and tomato, most commonly used observed micronutrient deficiency is zinc. Chilies, we will observe zinc deficiency micronutrient more common. Cauliflower, we observe molybdenum and boron among the micronutrients. So then citrus, just I told you, citrus not only a single micronutrient deficiency, many micronutrient deficiency will come to, observing at a time. For example, iron, manganese, boron, just like magnesium, all element nutrients deficiency appear at once. It is called the multi-micronutrient symptoms in the citrus. So it is common in mainly in the citrus crops when grown in the calcareous soils. When soil is having more than 15% calcium carbonate, those are called calcareous soils. In calcareous soils, the most commonly observed this one multi-micronutrient deficiency symptoms in the citrus crops, where zinc, iron, manganese, and boron deficiency symptoms appear simultaneously. So it is very difficult to identify individual deficiency. So for this multi-micronutrient deficiencies, the erstwhile Acharya Engineering Agriculture University, so that is now present after bifurcation, Professor Jaishankar, Telangana State Agriculture University. There is a All India Coordinated Research Project on Micronutrients and Secondary Nutrients. ICR project, there I was the head of the station. We have developed the management practices for the calcareous soils. There, the multi-micronutrient deficiencies are common in calcareous soils. We have developed a package. It contains the mixed following fertilizers in 10 liters of water. We have to mix the 550 grams of the zinc sulfate, 20 grams of the ferrous sulfate, 20 grams of the manganese sulfate, 20 grams of the magnesium sulfate, 10 grams of the borax, 60 grams of the calcium carbonate, and 100 grams of the urea. We have to mix in the 10 liters of water. So this spray we have to take up 4 times. That is one at the June, July, and another the second one is July, third is June, and finally in the month of February. 4 times we have to take up this sprays to take care of the multi-micronutrient deficiency in the citrus crop grown in calcareous soil. So then in addition to this spray, we have to apply the organic manures very judiciously. 4 tons of the farmyard manure per acre we have to apply. Or green manure crops we have to grow with high phosphorus doses and incorporate into soil. Within the, these trees, we have to grow the green manure crops with high application of the phosphorus, and we have to incorporate on the soil. So in fruit crops, we have to apply 50 kilograms of the organic manure to each tree and mix well in the soil, and apply chelate forms of the micronutrient fertilizers so that the crop absorbs efficiently in calcareous soils. Calcareous soils, what happens if you apply normal dose of the micronutrients, just like iron sulfate, zinc sulfate, normal applications, it will not work well. We have to use the chelated forms, chelated zinc, chelated iron. So these chelated forms of the micronutrient fertilizers should be used for the soil application as well as for the foliar application in calcareous soils. Thank you very much. Patience hearing. Thank you.